So here's a question for both of you. What is a Becky? I asked you this when I met you a couple weeks ago, but for everyone who doesn't know, what is a Becky?
Go, okay, well,
I'm like, who's going first?
I guess. Okay, well, actually, Fox tells it better.
I do. Oh no, no pressure.
Yeah,
I think
you're so much
Becky.
better.
So first of all, I think it's important that we say that if you happen to go by the name Becky, that does not make you a Becky. Anyone can be a Becky. A man can be a Becky. A person who goes by the name Rebecca can be a Becky. A Becky is a person who doesn't ever want to rock the boat, doesn't do the right thing if it's not convenient for them. I think that I guess it comes from like hip hop culture originally, and then is now kind of a part of like maybe the larger pop culture for certain generations of just like, yeah, like someone who's just really kind of clueless or like willfully ignorant or, not right. I don't know. Am I missing something here?
No, it's somebody who has cognitive dissonance, realizes that they might have cognitive dissonance or privilege, and really does nothing about it.
So how did how did you guys meet? And then where did this come from? What was the catalyst for the Rebecca show?
Well, Rebecca, when I first laid eyes on Rebecca, I knew it was fate. No, I was asked to direct a reading for the Women's Theater Festival. What was it called, Rebecca?
Occupy the Stage
Exactly.
reading.
And so it was rehearsal. It was auditions, and Rebecca came in and she read, and out of the many people who read that day, I was like, oh, she has it. Like, she's talented. Like, you like, and people know, like, when you sit in rehearsals as a director or a producer, like, you just know. Like, when somebody walks in the room, you're like, yep, they got it, And so that's what I felt, and I wrote her name at the top of the list. I was blessed to work with her in the reading, and then after the reading, a couple months later, like, I was like, gosh, like, she stayed on my mind, and I was like, okay, I want to work with her. And then, like, when somebody like that, like, kind of sticks in your brain, and you're like, wait, is it just because I like her for then, or do, like, like, you kind of like have to sit on it? Because that's how I am. I'm very Capricorn that way. So I'm like, and then I was like, wait, 2 months later, I'm like, no, I still want to work with her. So then I called her, we met for lunch, and I proposed to her. And I was like, yeah, you do a show with me. And she was like, yes. And then that's how we became a comedy duo.
Yeah, from my perspective, I had been an actor. We had both been actors and like writers and performers and teaching artists in Chicago about 10 years ago at the same time, and had like a cajillion of the same friends and working in the same theaters. And I think that if we had stayed, we certainly would have eventually worked together. But we just never crossed paths. And, I completely quit show business and came here and was a teacher for 4 years, and then had a kid and went to grad school and, became a speech pathologist, and like one day woke up and was like, I miss having a creative life. And so I saw that the Occupy the Stage was like explicitly advertising itself as like a creative outlet for people who do not have time or energy. They were like, this is 3 rehearsals max. And I was like, this is perfect. I'll get to like meet some people and like exercise these muscles and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, Rebecca was directing one of the shows that I was in. And I remember when you sent the first email, I was like, oh, cool, her name's Rebecca. And then I was like, oh, you have a 773 number. And then her, which is the Chicago area code, since everyone has their cell phone numbers are from wherever you were living in 2005. And that's where we were. And yeah, like, I mean, during that first meeting, I remember you were just kind of like describing your background. And I was just sitting there like,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do we not know each other? And that whole experience was really fun and really cool. And for me, I mean, I thought I was like, I kind of had stars in my eyes about Rebecca. because I was sort of like, you know, she was getting her MFA and she was so cool. And, you know, I mean, she definitely stuck in my mind too. And she was also in a director capacity. So I was sort of like, this is you know, she's so cool. And da, 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 da. So like and I did think about you, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do next for a creative outlet. And I was sort of like, well, maybe I can just do a stage reading festival every year. Oh, my kid is here. Honey, what is it?
But so that's
Yeah.
how
Tell Daddy about it. He can help you.
see this is what mommy life is like. This is how don't you love it? Like, don't you love it?
I'll be right back. My daughter is worried about the first 5 minutes of Babe. I'll be right back.
Okay. But yeah, so that's how it happened. And we made comedy love together.
Well, and what I love is you said when we spoke before that you got the funny from your mom and that your mom is super funny. So tell me about how mom is funny and how she, by osmosis, you got the funny.
Right. Yeah. No, my mother is hilarious, but my mother got it from her grandmother. I mean, from her mother. My grandmother. So like we are, you know, unfortunately now we can't have the three of us in the room anymore because my grandmother passed away in 2009. But when the three of us were in the room together, people would be laying on the floor laughing because my grandmother was. And a lot of times you didn't know if she was joking or not. And you had to kind of like, she was one of those people you had to sit there and kind of look for like for 10 more seconds and realize like, oh my gosh, this woman is serious. This is so hilarious. And then so my mom got that. My mom is more of a sarcastic funny. So my grandmother was a quirky funny and my mom was very sarcastic. And growing up, I knew, and I think the reason why I always fell into comedy, and by the way, Lauren, I never wanted to be funny. It's so serious. Like I've always wanted to be a very serious, very dramatic person. You know, I'm a method actor, but people are like, Rebecca, you are funny, and I think a reason why I've always kind of defaulted to comedy. Because growing up in a house that my mom was very liberal, almost like socialist, and my dad was a libertarian, and my dad was an butthole to grow up with. Our house was very tense a lot of times, and I grew up in a marriage that wasn't too much loving. So when I could make them laugh, I felt in that moment that we were normal. So that's why I think naturally I've always defaulted to comedy. It just makes my life normal.
And how about you, Rebecca Fox? Where does your funny come from? Why comedy? Where does that? Did you get that from your mom? Did you get that? You know, where does it come from?
Well, same as Rebecca, I didn't start out trying to be a comedian. And I would say that like, I sometimes feel like a lot of pressure when I'm like, it's a comedy show. Cause then I'm like, oh God, what if people don't laugh? It's funny because I wanted to be an actor and I went to the School of the Arts for high school. And the guy running the program back then, Bob Moyer, was like an acolyte of Paul and Viola Spolin, who were like the inventors of improv games and sort of like the, you know, godparents, grandparents of the Second City. And so I learned how to improvise, but it wasn't like comedy improv. It was like theater games, and it was sort of like as a technique for acting. And then I went to Northwestern and started doing improv there, like doing long form improv there with a group, and then like went on and like did it at IO and da 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 da. So it's sort of like, it's more like improv got me to comedy. Although it's funny because like by that time, you know, by the time I was writing sketch, I don't know. It's funny. I don't know. I mean, my dad is a very humorous person and loves to tell jokes and is like very extroverted and jocular and like likes to make people laugh. And I think that I'm maybe that way in a similar way. We were talking about being kind of glass half full type people. And like, I don't know if I'm like so much of a glass half full type person as that I see the humor in a lot of things. I think I'm sort of like, I tend to be kind of like an upbeat person, even though I'm like things are really bad. Like, or like, I think I'm like in contrast to my brother is this like very, very sensitive person. And like, I think that as he's become an actual adult, he's not this way as much anymore, but like he would just like straight up be in denial about like the bad things in the world, because I think it like just hurt him so much to be like, he was like, I just don't believe that the world, I'm like, well, it is. So I don't know. I think I just kind of have like I don't have a sunny outlook, but I think I have a sunny personality. And so like I see the humor in things, but I don't know, because again, like I'm loath to describe myself as like a comedy person, because then I feel like if someone doesn't think I'm funny, I am a failure.
Oh my gosh, Rebecca, that's so weird. I feel the
We
same
have a
way.
lot
Like,
of similarities.
like people, I know that they see me as a comedian and as a comedy writer,
Yeah.
but like, I'm always like, but I'm an artist.
I'm an artist. Yeah. What you really need to know about me is what I'm saying is deep and true.
Right. And I think I'm like, again, I think I'm accidentally funny. Do you understand,
Yeah.
Lauren, when I say that? Like, I think because I'm so honest and because I'm quirky in how I look at things and view things, I think I'm like acting, because there are times I say stuff and I'm really innocent. Like I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And people start falling out laughing. I'm like, oh, that's funny. Okay, well, let me make a note of that. Like, so that happens to me a lot.
What's interesting is you use the word failure, and I'm editing the podcast, the artist podcast, which will drop hopefully in the next couple of days. But Rebecca Jackson, you told me when I interviewed you that canceling the show or postponing the show made you feel a little bit like a failure. So there were so many shows that were waffling last week. Some closed, some stayed open for a few days and wanted to kind of give it a try. Some got postponed.
Mm.
So talk about that a little bit, because I think it was such a confusing week for everyone, and there was no right and wrong answers.
No, there were no right and wrong answers. But Lauren, see, this is the thing. As artists, we know that there are no right and wrong answers, but as artists, we are constantly searching for the best answer. Do you understand? And so like, also we know that when we produce things, when we create and we are ready to show them to the world, well, many times, first of all, like even when we're ready to show them to the world, we're like, ooh, is it the best work I've ever done? And then when we are ready to show it to the world and then something like this happens, we feel like it's a reflection on our work. It's a reflection on like, what did we miss? Like, what did we not do? And as artists, even though it's beyond our control, we as artists are like, we have an audience and we want to keep our audience and we want to nurture our audience and we want to embrace our audience, and we don't want to lose our audience. And that when you lose your audience as an artist, you feel like a failure. And that's scary.
It is, but the show will go on, and hopefully it'll be scheduled, and we'll see it again, and it'll evolve. As you navigate a crisis like this, and this is kind of uncharted waters, so this is an unprecedented crisis, but are you able to see the funny in hard moments like this?
I can certainly see absurdity. I think that there's absurdity, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think that the pandemic itself is funny. I think that, and the gravity of it is so horrifying. But I mean, there's certainly absurdity. I would say that. And for what it's worth, like I have not, it's funny because Rebecca and I have sort of like texted each other a little bit of being like, how are you? Da, 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 I miss you. You know, I was thinking yesterday, I was like, or 2 days ago, I was like, this would have been the day that we like closed our show. But I have not been feeling any regret about it at all. Like I didn't feel any FOMO, you know, fear of missing out. Like I don't, you know, I feel like, of course, we don't want to lose our audience, but like, I also don't want people to die. Like,
Right, exactly.
you know, I mean, I'm just sort of like worst case scenario, we contributed to like, you know, more of this, you know, more of it happening faster. And I don't know, like I haven't, it's funny because it's like we had this huge day right after seeing you for the first time, like where we were like on 2 radio shows and running around and like really getting ready and like one of those like big like ramp up right before the show days. And then like that night we were texting. I don't know how much of this is
I'm combing my hair out for the show.
Yeah, getting ready. And you know, you were just, I was like, I don't remember which one of us said it first, but I was just like, one of us was like, this virus is making me worried. And then the other one was like, we should close it. Yeah, I think I was just like, this is making me really worried. And you were like, I think we should close it. And I was like, yep, we should close it. And like, that's it. It was like within the span of like 30 seconds and 5 texts. Like,
yeah. And I so agree with Rebecca. It's like, you know, this is a really not great thing. But I think some of us, just to keep our sanity in the process, we have to laugh.
Oh yeah.
And we have to find humor in this. We, you know, like Lord, like I don't know if you guys have seen the COVID, the coronavirus?
The rap. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like
you're wasting all that Lysol. Oh my gosh. I was like, what I would do to have, not really. But I was like, spraying in the air? And they're getting close to each other. I'm like, I hope they live with each other.
All the aerosol, like I just got really concerned for their
respiratory.
Yeah, it was very concerning. But that bit, I laughed so hard, and I remember feeling like maybe 5 or 10 minutes later going, oh my God, I really needed that laugh.
Yeah.
Like, you know? And so that's why, like, I love the fact that I'm married to a very funny man who like loves to joke. And it's like, now when I come in from going to the grocery store real quick, he'll like, before he opens the door, he'll be like, are you infected?
Oh no.
And it's just like little things like that just keep us normal. It keeps us sane.
And this is like an amplified situation of what I think we said, you know, 2 weeks ago when we had our initial interview, which is you have to laugh so you don't cry, or you have to laugh in addition to the crying.
Yeah. Which actually makes you a Rebecca.
Yes. Not a Becky.
No.
What can our community do to support artists as we navigate this pandemic? Because obviously it takes an emotional toll on you to postpone a show, but there's a financial toll as well on artists in our community. So what can audiences, what can the community do now to help our artists? And then once the pandemic is over? Because I think it's important for people to come out of their houses when this ends and show up.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. Now I don't want the community to have to donate to arts, because the community itself is not doing well financially. I think everybody needs to make sure they're able to take care of their families, themselves. I think that maybe these governments, the state, local, and federal governments, need to understand that there are industries that are horribly affected by this.
Yeah, if there's going to be a cruise ship bailout, is there also going to be like an arts bailout?
An
Yeah.
airline bailout.
I get
Yeah.
their airline bailout.
Yeah. I think there
I
even might, I heard there's also going to be like, utilities bailout too. So why can't artists get a bailout? And then when we're serious, let's be honest, the artists, across all genres really hold society up and educate society and keep them aware and keep them entertained and so yeah.
I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to ask the people watching us if you would type any questions or comments you have in the comment section, then I can read them and then we can respond to those. But while you guys are typing in your comments, I want to ask you, does a crisis like this, I mean, we've never faced a crisis quite like this, but whether it's a hurricane or natural disaster or even a pandemic, does that nurture creativity? I mean, there seems to be two different schools of thoughts here. Some people are really thriving in this environment and taking the time to write and create, and other people are just kind of shutting down. Natasha and I had a conversation about that last night, that some people, they're just not feeling the creativity. So for you guys, is this nurturing the creativity or stifling it a little bit?
Well, I think that we're at the very beginning of what I think is going to be a long process. And I don't think there's any guarantee that we're going to come out on the other end the same. In a macro sense or as individuals. I think that if you have dependents, if you're it's hard to be a creative person anyway. You have to find time. Especially if you have kids or parents who depend on you. I would not say that it is stifling my creativity. I would say that we are in a brand new emergent routine, and I'm focused full time on taking care of my very small children who have no other childcare. So I'm not making creative work for myself, but for one thing, that's not my living. And for another thing, it's not I'm not thinking about it right now because I'm just trying to sort of get my bearings in this. But I wouldn't say that I feel stifled. I'm not making creative work right now because of the situation, but I'm not oh, I'm so stifled. I'm not, I wouldn't even say leaning into this particular role. I am fulfilling another role in my life right now, which is, to be the parent and caregiver of my little kids.
As women so often do. When we
Yes.
spoke on the podcast, and the podcast will drop closer to when the show goes out, but we had this wonderful conversation. So people need to subscribe to the podcast so they make sure they're in tune with when it comes out. But we had this conversation. I think as women, you're always juggling these different roles in different ways than our counterparts who aren't caregivers, because now there's men who are caregivers as well. So I can't even say men who aren't caregivers. It's definitely playing dual roles.
Yeah, I mean, my husband, with his professional situation right now, he has really stepped up and really been the caregiver of our sons. And right now he is homeschool dad. Every morning he makes them wake up at 8:30, take a shower, get dressed. He's like, no, we're not gonna spend 8 weeks in our pajamas, So he gets up and he has a whole schedule. He has created lesson plans and rubrics, and and he gets excited about that stuff. Great. But he has stepped up. But at the same time, as a woman, I know that there are roles that I have to take on, these mini roles, bringing in the income, making sure my mom is cared for, making sure that the CNAs for my mom are, cared for, and we have enough supplies. Do we have masks for the CNAs and things like that? Like, all while figuring out, because I call my plantation job. I have a plantation job, but, I got to get that check. But on the flip end, I have to keep my creativity going, because I know if I'm not writing, if I'm not recording something, if I'm not rehearsing or creating with Rebecca or creating with my friend Dre or something, if I'm not doing something, I fall into a depression.
Mhm.
And and it happens every day. Even if I'm just like, oh no, I'm feeling good, I don't need to be creative. Somehow there's a part of me that's just not fulfilled. And I have to be doing something. And I feel kind of inspired. Today, like I said, when I went to the grocery store, there was a little incident at the grocery store, and I was like, oh, this
Write
is
that down.
hilarious. Rebecca and I were going to do another show, and I'm going to write a sketch about this. And so it's just that, yeah.
See, that feeling that Rebecca was talking about, I just take it and I like push it down. I just push it away.
Don't push it down. Rebecca, let it come up through your wonderful juices.
Deal with it. It's funny. I was saying to Lauren earlier that my kids have been taking these classes with Sam Corey, who's a teaching artist, and like I'll overhear it. And you and I both were teaching artists. I mean, that was like my main sort of day job when I was an actor in Chicago for like 5 years. And I was overhearing it, and I was feeling a little bit wistful, but I was also like, man, so much of being a teaching artist is just having like a whole lot of energy and a whole lot of ideas. I'm just like, right now I just can't be like, you could be this, you could be that, you could be this, you could be that, you could be this, you could be that. We're green beans now. Now we're frozen beans. And I'm like, I used to be. But yeah, no, I do. When you put it that way, that it's sort of like, I've been noticing things in regular life and kind of being like, I guess I've been sort of like writing down, or like, here's my husband.
Hey, Leon.
Yeah, you're Anna.
So Rebecca Jackson, you're talking about being in the grocery store and getting that inspiration for something funny happening. How is the show evolving? Because you first started doing the show at the Pit. Is it the Pit?
Mm-hmm.
The Pit. And how's that evolved since then? And how is it always evolving?
Well, Rebecca and I, when we first sat down, I don't think we had any theme in mind. We just sat down and we knew that we were both awesome, and we knew that we had a voice, and our voice kind of like resonated, and voices resonated and making it into like one beautiful, amazing, powerful voice. And then we just started like purging like with each other and just like, oh my God. And then we just realized there was this like theme that just kept coming up. And we know that we shared even when she was rehearsing, like when we were rehearsing for the reading for the Women's Theater Festival, we talked about how like we don't call ourselves Becky, and how some just come up to us and be like, oh,
they'll try it. That's what they'll do, is they'll just try it. They'll be like, blah, 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 Becky.
Yeah, hey, Becky. And it's like,
and wait for you to be like, no.
Did I introduce myself as Becky? No,
that's not my name.
But, right. But, and then from there, we created this show that had this like energy of, Leon so wants to be a part of this.
No, he's the best. He's like cleaning. He's cleaning. He's the best.
He's so awesome. Anyway, by the way, Lauren, I have to tell you, our husbands are a lot alike.
Our husbands are very similar.
Isn't that really interesting? Like, it's just really interesting.
As different as we are, like Rebecca and I think in many ways we're very different, obviously, but like in many ways we are a lot alike.
Yeah. We both have 2 children. She has 2 girls. I have 2 sons. Anyway, go back. So yeah, the evolving. So yeah, our show started off like very much like this, like very like we're focused on the Becky versus the not Becky versus the, the relationships and the quirkiness and these these social constructs and defining them. And I think now it's evolved into like this thing about like, live your life, do you, but at the same time, we would love for you to self-reflect. We would love for you to walk away from our show saying, you know what? I see where I could work on me, you know, and I'm looking forward to like where this, even Rebecca kind of like hinted to something a couple of weeks ago when we were sitting on the bench in Hillsborough.
I'm like, of course,
So
I know
I was
exactly
like,
what you're talking about.
yeah. So like, and so like for us to like, now we're like, oh, maybe we should do this on film.
Oh yeah, no, that would be the best.
Yeah.
But
Like,
I also
we're
I
now-
wonder, I kind of think that like so much of our show came about from like sitting and like I thought we were going to be improvising scenes, and instead we like sat and talked and got to know each other and like, you know, talked about just life. And I feel like this has been sort of like a huge life. I mean, this is like a huge life altering moment for the entire world. So, you know, maybe on the other end of it, we'll like get together and sort of talk about how things are changing and have changed. And I just, you know, I hope that for us individuals and anyone listening and everyone, that it's as minimal as possible.
Okay, so let's play a little game.
Ooh,
I feel like we're going to do a little game.
quarantine game.
A quarantine game. I will name somebody well known, and you are going to tell me Rebecca or Becky.
Okay, but listen, you need to know. Here's something you need to know. All of us have a Becky within.
Yeah.
There's a daily battle with the
I think, but Rebecca, I think she's asking, are they 25% or more Becky?
This is hard. I feel like I'm playing God. Okay, I hope that they're just like super obvious.
So they have to be like 25% or more Becky, and then we can
Okay.
label them.
What I'm really afraid of is that you're going to mention people that like I'm supposed to know who that is, and I'm going to be like,
No, these will be easy because
Okay,
I'm
okay.
just winging it.
Okay.
This was not planned, but I think it would be fun because the last couple chats, not between us, but on my Zoom chats the last couple nights have been super serious. So let's start with Governor Cuomo.
he has.
Oh my gosh, he's like a Rebecca. Like he has like, I would say he has like 15% Becky.
He is having such a star Rebecca moment. His Rebecca
he is
star
so
is rising.
Yes. And why do I find him a little sexy? This is kind of compared to me.
Competence.
I saw him on television. I was like, why am I feeling some feelings in my
Competence
chest
is
here?
sexy. That's why.
Yeah.
You see, this beautiful man was like cleaning and disinfecting the table.
Beyond sexy. Yes. Exactly.
All right. So let's see. Governor Cooper.
Well, I have to say, since I personally know him, I have to say he's a
Rebecca.
Okay, good. I agree. At least right now, he seems very leaderly.
Oh, he's very Rebecca.
My favorite person, Donald Trump.
Becky.
Okay, he's like a
He's
Becky.
like the epitome of a Becky.
Yeah, like he's like Becca. Like that's
Everything
he
is
so
about
Becky.
him.
Yeah.
He can't see past his own anything. Like total Becky.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
All right, I'm
He's
gonna
like
ask.
he's like the worst Becky of all Becky.
He's the Becky. He is like the whatever paleo Becky.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he is definitely.
He's not even the original Becky. Like
He's like yoga pants every day and scrunchy Becky. He is that Becky.
It's just every Becky, like, and here's the thing, like all of us have Becky tendencies and Becky impulses, and like we give into them sometimes, and like, you know, it's a new day tomorrow, you try to do better the next time, but like he has never once not given into a Becky impulse, and he has never once thought twice about it. He just keeps digging himself into the Becky hole every moment of his life.
And he sprays Becky cologne on him.
He's just a big cloud of Beckiness.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, ultimate
So
super.
we're gonna try to be nonpartisan, I guess.
You're doing great so far.
So far, so good. How about Nancy Pelosi?
I think Nancy Pelosi's being as Rebecca as she feels she can.
Yeah.
I love that you're like, we're not going to be political, but here's a bunch of politicians.
Well, you know, I'm trying. I'm working on it.
I think Nancy Pelosi she's like 75% Rebecca, and there's like a 25% Becky element in there. Just like how she treats AOC. I don't particularly like how she treats AOC, but that's just me.
Yeah, she's a tough broad though, and I think that she is a principled person who works hard. And like, what else can you hope for anybody?
She's better than McConnell.
All right. Well,